Welcome to One-on-One. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper, and today we have Delegate Carl Anderton, a freshman in our House of Delegates representing Northern Wycomico County from the town of Delmar. Welcome, Carl.
Hey, how are you doing, sir?
Now, you weren't supposed to win this election. What are you doing in the House of Delegates? You knocked off a guy who had had the seat for 610 years, I think?
Well, I don't know if it was that long. He was, Delegate Conway, Chairman Conway was in there for 28
Norm Conway.
years. Yep. And,
28 years.
Yeah. No, I am very blessed to be in this position. It's an incredible opportunity, and I sincerely mean that. I'm truly blessed. I wake up every morning, and the first thoughts in my head is, thank you, God, for this opportunity. And then I say, thank you for my family. So, we might want to change the order, but I'm just,
Right.
I'm really excited about, having this chance to work for my neighbors.
Well, Conway was a venerable guy, and growing up around Norm, everyone seemed to like Norm. They didn't always agree with Norm, but everyone liked Norm.
Right.
And then you started running against him. People were like, who's that guy? Why would he take on Norm? No one's allowed to beat Norm.
Right.
And then as I got to know you and as other people got to know you, they were like, Carl's just as nice as Norm.
Well, that's a big compliment. I appreciate that.
But it wasn't like you're an ideologue that went in there and you're going to change years and years and years of bad party doctrine.
Right.
You were a friend and a neighbor who people really were able to embrace.
Well, I appreciate that. You can make me cry on your TV
No,
show,
I'm trying to get if that's true or not. If I'm just making that up.
I hope what you're saying is true. And I didn't go up there with this stringent agenda. I just wanted to go up there and be a seat at provide a seat at the table for us in Annapolis, and I think we've been able to do that really well so far. I mean, we've got a long way to go.
Right.
But where we are, coming together as a new delegation, the freshman five, we worked really well. I have Delegate Cherie Sample Hughes on my left, and I have Delegate Mary Beth Carozza on my right. I think that's purely coincidental, left and right of me, but but
Cherie being the Democrat,
right,
Mary Beth being the
Republican.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how we all kind of work together on votes and stuff, and those two take great notes on our laptops. We have ability for notes on votes.
Right. Now, I'm glad you mentioned this, because when I was up there in the gallery and I was watching, you were sitting between them, and they're both like the girls who did everything right in school.
Yes.
They're like teacher pets.
Yes.
And you're like the jock guy in the middle, and I can tell that you were like copying off both of their notes. You're like looking at what they're doing, like, should I be paying attention here?
Right. Well,
they're working too hard almost.
Right. No, we have our methods. I take notes. My notes generally are one word: yes for vote for it, or no for vote against it.
Right.
And it's the styles are very unique. I kind of have that. I think I'm just a little casual, in my approach, and sometimes that works well, and sometimes the more stringent approach probably works better. But as a team, we kind of fit it all. We're loose fingers, but then we come together and we are able to do some good things.
That's great. So it's Chris Adams, Johnny Mouts, you, Mary Beth, and Cherie. Those are the five, and they're all freshmen.
All freshmen.
All representing the lower and mid shore.
Yep, absolutely. So.
And all Republicans but one.
All but one. Yep.
And it's just been a lot of fun. I can just tell you're having fun.
Absolutely. It's the time of my life, Other than the birth of my children, I mean, these are the greatest moments of my life.
Right.
And, I pass people on the street, and they're just, it just feels different. Everybody's like high-fiving,
Right.
And, hey, you're doing good. And that's awesome feeling, having somebody tell me,
right,
for the first time in my life, I'm doing something good. It's great, I'll tell you real quick, I've given my phone number out probably over 10,000 times now. We'll do it before we leave here today.
Yeah.
And people have really begun to take me up on the cell phone number.
Right.
And one call I got in particular was I was driving to Annapolis with my Bluetooth in my ear, and there was a lady that called, and I won't go into much detail other than it ended up being a federal issue that she was upset about, nothing we could do at the state level. And she just said, look, I just really need somebody to yell at. And I said, ma'am, I work for you. Go ahead and cut it loose. Well, she got it loose, and I know how she feels about all forms of government and everything that encompasses. And at the end, she said, "Are you still there?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "I can't believe you stayed on the phone the whole." I said, "You're my boss. You told me to stay. I'm staying." And she just was really kind of tickled. I was really interested in her feelings, but it was unfortunate that we couldn't do anything at the state level. We do have some good communications with our federal representatives, but sometimes it's just out of the scope, and you do what you can.
Now, you were the mayor of Delmar.
Yes, sir.
And being the mayor of Delmar, that's, in Delmar, if you have a problem in Delmar,
People call me.
You can walk out of your house, walk down to town hall, and meet with the mayor and talk about what's going on.
Knock on my door. Yes, absolutely. Sunday afternoons were great. Especially during football season. So
people all wait to have neighborhood problems during the football game.
Between 1 and 4 on Sundays. Yeah.
Now, how has your Delmar experience prepared you for where you are now?
I think just, constituent services is something we've really focused on.
Right.
If somebody takes the time out of their busy day, their busy life, to call me about an issue, we're going to treat it as if it's the most important thing in the world. Even though it may seem like it's not on the surface, but to them it really is, and I'm going to treat it that way. And we open a file and we keep notes on the situation, how we resolved it, if we were able to resolve it. So that way in the future, if somebody else calls with a similar one, we already have the roadmap on how to get it done.
Right.
And we can do things quicker. We're constantly learning, refining the process, and sometimes we're able to hit the home run, sometimes we strike out. But I think we're batting pretty good.
And Bunky Luffman is your point man.
He is, absolutely.
And he's a constituent guy for sure.
Absolutely,
But it's very easy to also reach you.
Yep, absolutely, yeah. And he started giving his cell phone out now. And I said, "Are you sure you want to do that, man? Let me be." He said, "No, there's a lot of calls. I want people to be able to get somebody as soon as possible." And I really admire the way that he sacrificed from his family for his community, and it's a great team. We're kind of polar opposites on things, but we work really well together when it matters, and it's good.
Interesting. What is it about that Delmar community that makes it such a strong, bound community like it is?
I think because it's so close to Salisbury and Fruitland, but it's still kind of far away in some aspects, and you have the interstate portion between Delaware and Maryland, and so everybody kind of feels like they're at the end of both totem poles. And so, that is a community that is one heartbeat, if there ever was one. It's like you could make a movie about that town. So if anybody's writing a script, no.
Well, the town meetings are fascinating. You've got the Maryland meeting
and the Delaware
meeting, and then you all get together in one room.
All meet together, yep. And those are fun, especially during the budget.
Well, and there's seems to be a lot of agreement in the Maryland meetings, and a lot of agreement in the Delaware. But when the two there's more.
Not too much, but there's enough,
there's the Mason-Dixon line between everybody a little bit.
Right, and there are some times you think that that's actually, a tangible wall.
Right.
And that crime stops there, or crime starts there, but that's not true. And so, we've really come together, and they're doing really well. The budget cycle this year, they did really well at. And so, I'm really excited. I go to, meetings in Fruitland, Salisbury, Delmar County Council meetings. I don't make them all, but I go to as many as I can. And it is awkward sitting in the council chambers in Delmar of the town hall that we kind of help design and build.
Right.
And I'm watching everybody at the table, and it's really hard because you want to pick your cell phone up. No, or yes. But that, I leave it in my pocket.
Right.
So it is kind of awkward on that end of it, and I'm sure that when my time in the House is done. That'll probably be awkward as well if I were to ever go back and sit in the gallery as well.
Right.
But it's really neat growing up and seeing the cycle of things, and it's kind of sad and it's kind of happy at the same time. It's just life is an incredible gift.
It really is.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm sure you had some sort of notions about what it would be like in Annapolis, and I'm sure you were able to see things that it was completely different than you thought. Your paradigm completely shifted.
Absolutely.
Any examples of that?
Yeah, it's a total opposite of what I expected. You come out of an election cycle, and you're told all through the cycle, it's very partisan, it's very this, it's very that, and it may have been, but I can tell you, from my brief time in Annapolis, I didn't notice that at all. You do have times where, you pick sides on an issue, but afterwards everybody comes right together. Some of my closest friends in Annapolis are Democrats. From Montgomery County and Baltimore City, and we're able to put all that aside, and I think that works well because when there's agricultural issues,
Right.
they're comfortable enough to come to me about it, and then when there's other issues, that deal with jobs or the economy, I'm able to come to them about it, and we play off each other really well. And I can't tell you again, how blessed I am to be in this situation, this time, this place, because it really is going well. Now that could all change tomorrow, and it probably will, but as of right now, I mean, it is absolutely phenomenal.
So the Democratic leadership, they show respect, because you would think that they wouldn't even bother with someone from the lower shore.
The speaker is somebody that I can approach anytime.
That's
Speaker
great.
of the House, and we sit and talk. We're former
That's
football
Michael Bush from
players.
Annapolis.
Michael Bush is a great guy. Again, there are things that we don't agree on, but when we do, I mean, it's like sweet music. It's great. And, all the committee chairs, are great. The Democratic whip, the Democratic leadership, the same as the Republican, of course, but it's just really good to be able to get along with everybody. And,
Right.
and I don't know how or why, other than divine intervention, because you would think with the election I had and who I replaced and all those things would come into effect, but not at all. And I'm saying that with honest sincerity, not at all. It's just been amazing the way that I was received, by my peers in Annapolis.
Right. And a historic time with a Republican governor.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing. I can sit, in the leader's office, leadership on the Democratic leadership, Speaker of the House with a bill. And I'll tell you one that we were able to do was on sine die, the last day of session. A week prior, I was getting gas at North Wawa, and the general manager of the Shorebirds was there getting gas, and I just happened to say, "Hey, when are you going to start on the upgrades to the stadium?" And he said, "Well, that depends on you guys." I didn't know what he was talking about. I mean, so I didn't want to go into it, make myself look dumber than I already am.
Right.
So I jump in the car and I call Bunky. I said, "Hey, start thumbing through the budget. Let's see what's going on here." And we were able to backtrack. In August, there was money from the state set in for structural improvements to the stadium.
Right.
And because it was on a 20-year schedule.
Right.
And that was in the budget. And then sometime between August and January, it was taken out. So we were immediately in danger of losing the team because their lease was up.
Right.
And so I started working with the governor. I saw him the next day, and he took me by the hand to his leadership team and said, "That's 200 jobs. We got to find a way to get that money back in the budget."
Wow.
And then I went the following morning, and I sat down with the speaker, and he said, "Don't you worry. We're not going to let anything happen to that team leaving. We'll come together on that." And I went to the new chair of appropriations, and she was equally as concerned and said, "We'll take care of it." And we didn't get the full amount in the budget, but there
Right.
was money put in the budget
To get it started.
Yeah. And then we're going to go back in January and hopefully get the rest. But it was really neat seeing how quick and how fast, everybody was genuinely concerned for something on the Eastern Shore.
Right.
And but that's just one of many, many. And we do the same. We reciprocate on things on the Western Shore. When there's issues, we fight for them as well.
And just having some rapport with the governor, I think, really helps.
Being able to go up on the second floor,
Yeah.
Jeannie Hadaway's there. She's my contact. I probably talk to her almost as much as I talk to my wife. Sorry, Mama. But, because she's there, she's somebody I know,
Yeah.
and she can take my message right to the governor. And then, it's really, it's lined up really well. I'm just really blessed.
Right. Now, the governor's having some health problems, but
Yeah.
it looks like he's fighting his way through.
He's doing his thing. We're all wearing
You're
our
wearing that?
We're all wearing our bands for for Hogan Strong.
Hogan Strong.
Yep. And he's doing really well. The guy has a work ethic that's unbelievable. I mean, to come out right out of chemo and then, Board of Public Works meetings and all these, these individual things that he's doing, and he's working from the hospital. I mean, that he, I can relate not to what he's going through, but to that drive, because we know how special it is to be in a position to help.
Interesting. As a reporter, I've covered the tax differential issue
Sure.
my entire career.
Right.
And it's the same thing every year where the towns go into the counties and they ask for the tax differential.
Right.
And the counties politely listen to them and then tell them to get lost.
Yeah, right. Get on down the road.
Sometimes there's some conversations, sometimes there's
Sure.
not. But in Salisbury, our very liberal Democratic mayor, Jim Ireton,
Right.
loves to use you as an example of someone, a Republican, who supports the tax differential.
Right.
And that's from your time in Delmar.
Absolutely it is. I've seen it firsthand. I've lived it, and I've seen, the deficiencies we face because of that. I mean, it's kind of funny because, the prior administration, and probably this one as well, wants, smart growth initiative. They want people to move and build near existing infrastructure, to kind of preserve farmland.
Right.
But in the same regard, people should, it's their land. They should do what they want with it to an extent, of course. But, and in doing so, you're forcing people to pay double taxes immediately, right out of the gate, which is a severe hindrance to somebody looking to start a family. So, there have been studies done. It actually encompasses about 1% of the county's operating budget would be the offset, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. And, we've had some discussions. There was a bill passed this session for Frederick County to do the tax offset. And I spoke with the committee chair, and he said, the only way they're going to do tax differential bills is to do them on a county-by-county basis. So in order for us to do that, we have to have, of course, we have all the municipalities on board, but we need the county council and county executive on board. And I will tell you, we have had discussions. I don't know how far it's going to go, but we're going to keep working towards it because I think it's the right thing to do.
Right.
But I don't want to do it in a way that it hinders the county taxpayer. And I think we found a way to do that. You phase it in over so many years, and you have a couple pause buttons, sort of like the phosphorus management tool,
Sure.
where you can hit the pause button, wait, our finances aren't what we thought they were.
Right.
But just to have a meaningful discussion, it's something they haven't had in 40 years. And
Right.
I think we're getting close to that.
It's pretty smart to phase it in. That never occurred to me. I was just
Yeah.
imagining that all of a sudden one year I had to pay way much more in county taxes.
No, the goal is that you don't have to pay anything
Right.
different. That's the plan. And so kind of the way it would work is if your county tax rate is 98 cents,
Right.
Somebody living in Salisbury, their tax rate would be 95 cents. And then if the county were to ever raise taxes, which probably will happen someday, your tax rate would go to 99 cents and somebody in the city would go to 96 cents. You would
Right.
go up the same, but it would just be that difference making up for the police department and public works and those
Right.
things, that
Because the city taxpayers are paying for
paying
services
for that, and they're not
through their
they
city
don't
taxes.
get to utilize the county services
Right.
because the county doesn't do anything in the municipalities to stay around it. So
Right.
so it wouldn't be a complete wiping of the tax rate, but just offsetting the things that you're already using.
Right. Now, I just learned something the other day, which I didn't know. I remember during the election, during the campaign, you made an issue of some of the spending, capital spending at Salisbury University on some of the buildings.
Right.
It just seemed exorbitant to you. And
It did.
when you
hear
common
it,
sense people, when
right.
you hear they're going to spend $50 million on a library or whatever it is,
Right.
it does seem like a lot of money. But you raised that question, and I remember thinking at the time, like, well, obviously he just doesn't get it. He doesn't
Right.
understand what things cost. He's got this farmer mentality. I kind of turned into like dealing with my grandfather
Sure.
kind of thing, back on the farm again.
Right.
But at the same time, that sort of resonated in the community, and it got some lawmakers in Annapolis talking about it.
Right.
Janet Dudley Etchbach actually had to go up there and like retestify on the building and explain some stuff.
Right.
And she did an excellent job and made
Yeah.
great points, and they validated the spending.
Sure, absolutely.
But what came out of it was a great exercise in checks and balances.
Right.
And I don't know if you meant to do that or not, but your comments in the
No.
election actually ended up producing some good.
Right. Well,
it made everyone much more aware of what was going on.
that's just the whole point. You question things you don't understand. Just
Right.
don't go along to get along.
Right. And me being the
Right.
cynical newspaper guy, I'm like, he just doesn't get it.
Right.
But when it's my job
There's
really
some truth to that.
but it's my job really to question that stuff.
Right,
You know,
sure.
and I acted like, well, I knew better, but I
Right.
didn't. And you taught me a lot through that, if that makes any sense. So thank you for that.
Man, I appreciate that, man. I really do. It's just, when you're constantly spending more than you're bringing in, and this is the smallest amount of growth we've had in a budget in 10 years
Right.
this year. You just question everything. It's like, how bad do we need it? I mean, that building was definitely needed. I mean, the university is the economic engine, especially in Salisbury and Wycomico County, along
Right.
with our ag industry. And, we have to foster it and grow it. But, there's nothing wrong with, just double checking, make sure something's truly necessary.
Whatever the number was, like $90 a square foot, or
Yeah, it was up there.
it was.
a lot
I
higher
don't think it was
than
that high. It was that okay,
Yeah,
but it was a
yeah.
lot of money.
Yeah, and but it's a phenomenal building that should last.
And it's going to be great.
Yeah, it should last the rest of my life and hopefully my children's
Right.
lives. Yeah. So, no, well, thank you.
That's really cool. Now, you had some great success too with this Evo bill.
Yeah, that was fun.
You probably don't like to talk about it, but
No, what I did with the bill is
now these are the brewers here in
yes,
Salisbury.
right.
They have faced government intervention
All along.
from when they wanted to redevelop the train station, and
Right.
Barry Tillman wanted to charge them the water or the sewer,
which was amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
just at every turn, they were thwarted in their
Right.
desire to build and expand. And ultimately, you were one of the people who were able to help them here at the very end.
Yeah, it's really cool. It was a lot of fun being able to do that. What I did is we took a bill that they had been working on the past 3 years. They could never get passed. And I took the bill to the committee leadership that it was going to be in. I said, what would you like to see in this bill? What in this bill would make you like it? And so, we honed it down. We made it for Wycomico County only, and it allows the brewers here when they hit 22,000, in state law, if you hit 22,500 barrels with the class brewery that Evo and Tall Tales are, they would have to close their restaurant
Right.
to grow, which for Evo, that's 70 jobs that would be lost.
Right.
So we took the bill, we doubled it to 45,000 barrels. And they're allowed to keep the restaurant open. And so they're going to keep those 70 jobs in the restaurant. The Knorr brothers tell me they're looking to probably hire up to 50 new people
Wow.
as they expand. So it's one of those few things in life, man. You get one or two opportunities to say you're going to do something,
Right.
and then do it, but do it so fast.
Right.
We all ran on job creation, and so I was glad that we did it as a delegation bill, because all five of us can point to that, as something that we did together.
Right.
And there were a few times I almost lost the bill, and I'm hoping the guys at Evo, maybe someday they'll name one of their beers Plaid Socks. The reason why is, and I shouldn't say this story, but I'll say it. It's fun. We're sitting in my office, and it's one of the Knorr brothers, and it's one of the leaders of
Tommy and John.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's one of the leaders of the opposition, are in there, and I was going to meet with them.
And both Knorr brothers are very impatient guys.
Yes,
especially Tommy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I arranged meetings for them next to each other, but knowing how I like to talk, they would overlap, and so we got everybody in the same room together, the three of us, and I'm sitting on the edge of my desk, and I mean it's a very tense situation, and I'm feeling like that I'm going to lose this, and this is exactly what I did. I looked up at the ceiling and I said, "Give me something, God, just throw something my way," and I just happened to look down, and the gentleman had these impressive plaid socks, and I said, "Hold on." I said, "Where'd you get those socks, man? Those are nice socks." Truthfully, I said, "Where did you find those?" And then I looked at his tie, and I said, "Man, that tie is awesome. I want to dress like you when I grow up, man." And I really meant that. I really do want to dress like him when I grow up. Phenomenal dresser. And so it kind of broke the tension. We laughed and carried on a little bit, and then I said, "Okay, what's the piece that's keeping this?" And we found the roadblock, and we got it out of the way, and the bill passed unanimously. And so it's just having the ability, to just find something at the right time, at the right moment. It's just really, it's incredible. I keep telling people when I see them in Walmart or in the mall and they come up, I'm blessed, and I know it because folks like me, former grave digger, chicken house cleaner, builder, I put my wife through school twice. This stuff doesn't happen to people like me all the time, and so I'm just maximizing each day.
Oh, I think in America it does, though.
So, well, I hope so, because that's what it was meant to be. So
there might be a beer you think someday called Plaid Socks?
that would be funny, wouldn't it?
You
Absolutely.
You think Tommy would figure that out?
I don't know, but it was just amazing that those socks. It was something to break the tension in the room, and
Right.
we were able to get down to the point and funnel the issue through, and everybody left, high-fiving. So,
Now, you're on the Environment Committee.
yes, sir.
What's the outlook on environmental issues? There's talk now of maybe a moratorium on chicken
It's always
houses.
something, isn't it?
Yeah,
we finally put the chicken tax to bed once
Right.
and for all. And there were several bills that were just bad for farmers. We were able to kill. We were up there killing bills. Delegate Otto, Delegate Jacobs, and myself, three voices from the Eastern Shore on a great committee with great leadership.
Charles Otto almost reminds me of like a legislative sniper. Like he's there to try to shoot down anything that's coming.
When he pushes his button to speak, everybody stops because
Right.
he doesn't push it often. And when he
Right.
does, he is.
It's going to be.
It's coming.
Right.
Right. And so yeah, will we see some kind of bill about a moratorium on chicken? Of course. Why
Right.
not? We've seen everything else, but I feel confident that we'll be able to put that thing off to the side as well. The last thing you ever want to do is stop somebody from improving their quality of life by employment. A job is the piece that starts it all.
Right.
And the farms were here first. Where I live in Delmar, the backside of me is a farm. I don't complain about that. It was there before me. My grandparents' farm. My parents built their house next door. Do you think they say, "Oh, you can't plow on windy days"? No,
right.
They've been plowing for generations.
There's a right to farm.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We got to eat. I love some chicken. So.
Did the phosphorus thing end up okay? The final resolution on that, or there's still more to do?
Well, it's kind of like the best of a worst situation.
Right.
What was coming was really, really bad. This phases in, and they have a couple opportunities to hit the pause button, but we've got some interesting things coming. We have a grant that one of the main sponsors of the chicken tax worked with me on a grant for poultry farmers on the shore. We're going to see a plant built on a farm that will turn chicken manure into renewable energy.
Right.
Natural gas, some biofuels. It's an additive that would be used in asphalt. And then the phosphorus stripped out of the manure, and the rest of the manure going back for fertilizer, and then this phosphorus sold on the open market. But having two folks from the polar opposites ideologically come together on an issue, that's what it's all about. That's the magic. That's just awesome.
What are you looking for in this upcoming session?
Lord knows. No.
Is it going to be another tough budget?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Anytime you reverse course, it's always painful. And we'll fight for what we can on the shore. I have the utmost faith in my colleagues that are on the committees that deal with the budget. I rest comfortably knowing they're carrying our message.
Right. The revenues exceeded the expectations, but still there's going to be some kind of a deficit.
That's something that should be noted. When was the last time that happened?
Exactly.
So clearly, we've got some things going in the right direction. We just need to make it as a painless of transition, as possible, not to affect our quality of life, in any way. And I don't know if it's possible, but we're going to do our best.
All right, give me that phone number since everyone has it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's 443-359-1335.
1335.
Yeah, 1335.
And when people call you, what do you want them to say to you?
Hey, brother.
What's the biggest complaint or observation that you get?
Well, taxes, of course, and the lack of jobs, and it ranges from, a hole in the sidewalk, to a faded stop sign, to, I'm having problems with my house, my mortgage, insurance, health insurance. Oh my gosh, the health insurance situation in Maryland is just, it's unbearable. People being charged thousands of dollars to be lifted up on a helicopter, and the insurance won't cover it. All these different irons in the fire that we're working on. So, every day, it's an interesting surprise. But I'm absolutely blessed. How about you, man? You enjoying this gig?
I am. I get to talk to fun people.
Yeah, you talk about replacing a legend.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, well,
yeah.
No. I actually got an email the other day from someone who complained that I wasn't nearly as folksy as Phil Tillman.
I like it. You're funny, man.
So I'm going to work on my folksiness.
Well, let me know how you work on that.
I'm not sure how you rehearse folksiness. I think you either have it or you don't.
Sure. No, this is fun.
I've been listening to a lot of Garrison Keillor and Prairie Home Companion to try to be more folksy. So.
Okay, sure, yeah.
He's Carl Anderton. He's our delegate from Delmar, Wycomico County. He's a freshman in the House of Delegates going back in January. Carl, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Greg Bassett from Salisbury Independent Newspaper right here with another edition of 101 on PAC 14.